Hi everyone, welcome to my weekly messages. I'm Jalailah Starr. Today the topic is dysfunctional selflessness. This is a term that I've kind of coined to describe this belief that women have been taught in our society that we are to give and give and give selflessly and never ask for what we want. Because that would be selfish, right? We're not allowed to be selfish. And that our value as human beings is determined by how much we give, how well we give. And for us, the way that we gauge our worth is by how well people give back to us without us having to ask. Because if we have to ask, then something isn't right. Either we didn't give it properly, or we don't give it enough, or these people are just selfish people. They don't care about us. It's just, it's a very difficult belief that seems to be at the core of a lot of divorces. And so I want to talk about that today because that was a theme that came up this week. It's about what happens to women in particular. I mean, it happens to men as well, but women in particular, what happens to us when we try to live our lives being totally selfless in order to gain some sense of self-worth. So the person that inspired this weekly message, we'll call her Karen. So here's Karen's story. Karen came to me because her life just seemed to be stuck. She wasn't going anywhere. She didn't know whether to go back to corporate America, get a job, or or continue trying to work with a uncooperative business partner in her current venture, which she was trying to get off the ground, but every time she would try to get it off the ground, it just, things weren't working. The other problem that she had was she had what we call an irritating ex-husband. I guess he was pushing her boundaries, pushing her buttons, and just was very, it was very difficult. And then on top of that, she was struggling with a chronic thyroid problem, which was also causing her to have a weight problem. So it's like just nothing seemed to be working in her life. And she was going, okay, I got to do something, but I just don't know what to do. So when I tuned in, I saw very clearly that was what she was working with. It was a belief running in the background, like a program running in the background, because beliefs are like programs, software programs running in our background, and our mind, our minds. And our minds are like computers. And they say the brain is like a computer. So I give the analogy of software programs and computers. So she had this dysfunctional, messed up program running in the background that was causing all of these issues. So what I did was I tried to tie them all together to help her see the bigger picture of, okay, the thyroid problem is because you're not speaking up. You got a block in this throat chakra. The second one is that you're not setting boundaries, which is why you have an uncooperative business partner, because you need to set a boundary with her. And it's why you have a weight problem, because you have all this frustration, and frustration burns a tremendous amount of our energy. I talk about the energy account and say, for example, we get $300 worth of energy every day from the life force, from the universe. But when you have a lot of frustration because people are pushing your boundaries, you're not speaking up, this burns up 250 of it, and then that gives you only $50 to live on, and that 50 has to support everything in your environment, all your relationships, all your stuff, any activities that you're involved in is obviously you're going to be running in the red, right? You're going to be bankrupt. So when you don't have any energy in reserve, you don't have anything to support anything new coming in, because it takes energy in reserve to support anything coming in, money, opportunities, people, whatever. You have to have energy to support it. You have to have empty space and energy to support it, raw energy ready for that to match up. So anyway, so this was behind her business partner issue, her ex-husband issue, her weight issue, her thyroid issue, and her business and her financial issue. So she got that, okay, this dysfunctional belief, right? So how do you fix that? Well, what happens is a lot of times people go, oh, well, the answer is just to love yourself more. Okay, yeah, that is the answer, but how does that translate into day-to-day life? So I said, okay, here's how I learned to do this, because you have to have a new set of tools, because obviously all the tools that we're taught here on earth are very limiting. So one of the tools you have to have is the ability to be able to release somebody who you're upset with. You have to be able to see what they're doing and see the role that they're playing for you. So you have to kind of step out of 3D into the soul perspective, into the level of a creator god or goddess who's creating her reality. Or another way of saying it is a soul level, where you see, okay, I chose this person, I brought them into my life, I have a plan for them, I have a script for them to act out in a role for me, so that I can see my programs. Because see, we can't turn our eyeballs inward to see our programs. So we have to have other souls make contracts with us in the inner life to play out those beliefs in the form of a role. So when we have people come into our lives who do things that are upsetting to us, they're there by contract to show us that program. We have to be smart enough to figure it out. That's the deal. And then when we figure it out, then we're no longer mad at them, and we appreciate them. We release them from blame and say, thank you very much. I got it. And you both move on, right? Okay. So what she needed was a set of tools. So I said, well, those are what I wrote about. I was given those tools, and I wrote them down in the keys of compassion. So I said, so number one, you need the formula of compassion, which enables you to see what other people are mirroring to you. Then you need, like, I'm going to show you a couple of examples. This is contracts and promises. This is a second key. This is one of the most critical keys, because that's where you go back into the inner life. You look at your plan as a soul, and you figure out why this individual is in your life and what the role was that you contracted for them to play, and the script. You learn how to read their actions like a script. And then when you can own, when you see it, when you realize the program they're showing you through their actions, and it's in here, you go, and then you can go back to the formula and release them from blame. The other thing she needed to do was learn how to set boundaries. Obviously, this is a girl who could barely speak up, right? Throat chakra. Needed to set boundaries. So I said, that's another one. You've got to have Dancing with the Dark. There you go. And in that, it teaches you about boundaries. It teaches you how to use your masculine side, also known as your dark side, because we all have a light and a dark side. And the purpose of that dark side, one of which is to speak up and set boundaries. So you own your male side, and you use that to protect yourself, draw lines in the sand for other people, and go this far, no further. The other thing was how to deal with her fears around speaking up. Okay, so that is, hold on to nothing and you'll have everything. It teaches you how to work with your inner child to release a fear of doing something. It's magical, because once you release it, you feel it right here in the gut, then you can go forward, you can do it. Okay, the final one, two others were agreements. She needed to learn how to forge agreements so that she has safety in her relationships and she can build trust. So, for example, with her partner, she needed to set a boundary. She needed to make an agreement about how they would move forward. And then through that agreement, they learned to trust each other. They also learn how to renegotiate and put in conditions when they need to, so they can honor their word. The final one is apologies. When you screw up, and we're all going to screw up, we're going to cross the lines. How to make an effective apology that will ensure that that person doesn't keep regurgitating that situation over and over the next 20 years. And we see that a lot in marriages. People will dredge up stuff from the past. And the reason they do that is because it was never completely cleared. In apologies, you learn how to create the right apology so that their inner child can go into the file cabinet where, in their emotional field, where that memory is held, pull out that file and release it. Because at that point, it never comes back. Because when they release it, what you've done is you've validated the pain without defending and without invalidating your own apology. So these are the tools that Karen needs to be able to move forward and to begin to apply them on a day-to-day basis. So it was a very helpful session. I'm very thankful to Karen for sharing her guides and her time with me. So anyway, that's what we're working on now. That's the theme for this week, is this unhealthy level of selflessness in which we bankrupt ourselves being for others in order to get what we want, instead of speaking up, asking for what we want, speaking up, and negotiating for it, because that is the way to any kind of successful relationship. So that's it for the day, and we'll see what next week brings. Now, I have way more, on the note of the mini sessions, I have way more requests for free sessions than I have time to give. So at this point, I'm going to still give 15 minutes, but it will go to people who can add some to it. So you're welcome to go do that and get an extra 15 minutes for your session. So that's it for the week, and I will talk to you next week. Bye-bye. I can read your thoughts right now. Everyone from